Chapter 23 of The Man with the Red Beard by David Whitelaw. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Marianne. Chapter 23 On the Heath. As we sat on one of the seats just off the highway which cuts a straight line across the heath, I told Myra a story that was long in the telling, a story of my sufferings and of my escape. I told her also the reason of my changed identity and of my visit in the person of Simon Draffo to the house in Norwood. As I mentioned the villa and the rat, I felt the little gloved hand that lay in mine tighten round my fingers. I paused and looked at Myra inquiringly. "It was in that hateful place," she began, and glanced round with a return of something of the horror I had seen in her eyes when I had first met her on the heath. "But, Myra," I interrupted, "you speak strangely. You are still a member of the group? You still have the cause at heart?" I could see that the girl was very agitated. She started up and stood before me, her eyes flashing, her breast rising and falling as she spoke. "The cause! There is no cause. Not here. Over there in Russia there was always a reason. There men and women gave their lives, and I would have given mine, oh, so gladly. But here it is all different. I have seen and heard things in Norwood. They have kept me in ignorance as much as possible, but I have seen things which made me wish I were dead." I drew the trembling girl down beside me on the seat. In a moment she went on, pouring into my sympathetic ears that which had been fermenting in her heart for months. "I joined the group when my greatest friend was taken as a suspect. They beat her, Oh, I saw her afterwards. She had been beautiful. I have seen, too, women bending over their children lying wide-eyed on the frozen ground. I have seen the severed arm of a baby. God! There was a cause then. I taught music. Perhaps you know that. And among my pupils were 2 girls of one family, Olga and Nita. They were rich, but they were revolutionaries. They were, I think, the sweetest girls I ever met. Olga is dead, and Nita drags her chains in Siberia. Can you wonder that I was consumed with a dead hatred against the government that let such things be? I cared nothing for politics. I cared only for the misery of the people, and for the baby's arm on the snow." "And do you not think like this now?" Oh, yes, indeed. But after that affair at the flat, it all changed. There only seemed to be left the scum of them then. All the intellectuals, the lovers of freedom, were gone. There remained only such men as Veyo and Stefanovitch." "And Marazev?" I said. "Yes, and Marazev. But he is not like the others. He still dreams of regeneration. The others are wolves, he says, who forage for the cause, and for the pieces he likes to throw to them. The end, to his way of thinking, justifies the means. He will not let me go to Norwood now. He says that if I marry him he will get us both released from our oaths. We will go away, he promises, and start afresh in America. He is rich." "He has every reason to be," I said, and the bitterness I could not keep out of my voice attracted her attention. "What is that you say?" she asked, and I decided to tell her. "Only that hell holds no greater scoundrel than Felix Marazev," I said, and went on to tell her of all the man had done to me and of the lies with which he had pleaded his cause to her. I told her of what I had found out in his flat, of the scene in the prison office, and of his insults to her and to me. I showed her the portion of the letter which I had put in the envelope, together with the complete account of the man's villainy I had written out that morning at the hotel. At first I do not think that Myra believed all I was saying, but at last the truth of it was forced upon her. She would not discuss it was all so strange, she said, and she must think. Almost in silence we walked down to her home, and the clocks were striking 11 as I left her at the little white cottage where she lived with her married sister. Before we parted, I handed the envelope, the contents of which would, if used in the right quarters, send Marazev to his death at the hands of his comrades. "I want you to keep this, dear," I said. "Tomorrow I enter the lists against Felix Marazev, and he is an enemy of whose powers I have a very great regard. I will send you word each morning, even if it is only a card. If at any time 2 mornings pass without a word from me, I want you to hold this until, say, 1 o'clock. Then if you still have not heard from me, make what use of it you can. For if you do not hear I shall be in that man's power. I will let nothing else prevent my sending you word." She took the envelope. Her hand was steady, and I knew that she would do as I wished, and that my life could be in no better keeping. "And you," she said, "you will take care of yourself? You will not run into danger?" I took her in my arms and kissed her for the thought. "My life is too precious to me, darling," I said, "to throw it away lightly." I watched her as she ran up the garden path. She stood framed in the radiance of the lamplight in the hall for a moment. Then I turned and retraced my steps to the Heath. It may be wondered at that I did not descend the hill on my way back to my hotel, but there were reasons which made it important that I should examine the neighbourhood of the seat where I had been sitting with Myra. The girl had not noticed it, I felt sure, but as we had risen I had sensed more than seen a movement in the clump of gorse a few yards behind us. It was hardly likely that anyone who had been concealed there could have overheard what we said, but the thought of espionage was disturbing, and it was my business, clearly, to know every move of the game. I had bought, while in Berlin, a little revolver, and this had been my constant companion ever since. I slipped it now from my hip pocket to the outside pocket of my light overcoat, and kept my hand on the butt in readiness. It was nearly full moon, and the white road cut clearly through the expanse of heath, which, grey-green with inky shadows beneath the clumps of gorse, rolled in little waves of earth like some mysterious sea to a far horizon. There were no people abroad now, and I walked sharply to where Myra and I had been sitting, turning off abruptly and striking at the particular gorse bush that I suspected with my cane as I passed. I did not, of course, think for one moment that even had anyone been hiding when Myra and I were on the seat, he would be there now, and seeing that all was clear, I knelt down and examined the ground on the farther side of the bushes. There were ample evidences here that some one had been lying, for the dried grass was pressed down as though by some heavy body. After all, perhaps it had been no more than a tramp, or one of the pretty blackmailers who ply their odious trade in the open places of London after dark. I turned away, intending to make my way home, when my eye was attracted by 2 matchsticks lying at my feet, further proof, had it been necessary, that some one had been on the spot. I picked them up, and as I looked closely at them a sense of impending danger came over me. For the matches were of that particularly obnoxious kind one meets with upon the Continent, those that burn with a blue flame, and if you are not careful, fill your pipe of tobacco with the sulphurous flames of the pit. These matches cannot be bought in England, and it was clear to me that whoever had been watching Myra and myself that night, that person had been a foreigner. I stood there, one hand holding the tell-tale matches, the other gripped round the revolver butt in my pocket, turning my eyes slowly from side to side, watching and waiting for I knew not what. A cricket chirped in the grass. From a long way away came the whistle of a locomotive. The heath lay around me, untenanted, unfathomable, mysterious in the moonlight. As I looked round me, I thought of another great heath, and of another man alone on it, garbed in the hideous livery of the Broad Arrow. I looked over to where the London lights shone in the sky, and I wondered where Paul Bergstoff was, and I remembered with a start that during my talk with Myra we had neither of us mentioned the man who had been the means of bringing us together. Surely, as Morozov had said, Paul Bergstoff had been unfortunate in his choice of a messenger. His £1,000 was still in my bank, the girl in my arms. I gave another look round the heath, then, shivering slightly, made my way at a sharp walk down to where I could get an omnibus back to town. End of chapter 23.